Everybody listen to We're Not Wizards. Because we are the best. And we're not wizards. No matter what anybody says. Goodbye.
I hope you realise that when we go into this that you are second fiddle, because I am one day kind of hoping for a stew.
Yeah, I did try. I tried, and he basically said no. But I don't want to.
I've met
no
him.
Way. Why would I want to do that?
But I've met him though.
Yeah, I know. I said.
I have actually.
He got on with you. He said how much he enjoyed spending time with you, but no,
which is always confusing.
I know.
Okay. I guess we kind of do an intro, or we can just keep talking, because you've been on. I mean, obviously we've got lots to do and lots to kind of edit together and everything like that, and it's fine. And you know, and sometimes I just like to play around with the format, because this is going to be episode, 293.
293? Wow. In how long?
Well, this will be officially the 293rd episode.
In how long? How long ago did you start?
2.5 years ago. Actually, okay. 2.5 years ago today.
Wow.
So it's quite funny, because I hear I listen to Polyhedron Collider, as I'm sure you do as well, and then I'll hear Steve Tudor saying, "Welcome to Polyhedron Collider, to episode 68," and they've been going longer than I have in terms of podcasting, and then I kind of feel bad, and I kind of want to have some kind of shame cry over the fact that I seem to keep on just doing lots and lots of these. But anyway, it doesn't matter. You
do.
I do far too many. You do
lots. I hope you're still enjoying them.
Yeah.
Oh no, there was a pause.
No, it wasn't. It's not that. Do you know what? It's I'd kind of like to do more. I'd kind of like to, I guess, kind of reach out to the people out there and help people with their projects and stuff. I kind of feel I'm at that place now where I've kind of got enough experience that I can easily kind of look a Kickstarter in the eye and pretty much kind of tell very quickly if it's going to go anywhere or if it's not going to go anywhere. Do you know what I mean?
I'm sure there's plenty of space for people to do that. I mean, there's always people that need an eye looking over their Kickstarter campaign.
I don't know. Do you know what I might just do? I might just get to Christmas and then just finish it all.
No.
I might just get to Christmas and say, "Thanks very much, everybody, and I'll see you later," and just do that. Because
you're going to actually declare you're a wizard at Christmas.
The
whole 3 years were all a joke, and you're actually a wizard.
Is it going to be like Kaiser Soze at the end of Usual Suspects? And then it kind of ruins my plan seeing kind of Kevin Spacey being a sex offender, because I was going to have him kind of come on and go, and the greatest trick, the wizard ever played was to basically convince the world that he wasn't a wizard, but so anyway. You're having cake. Is it brownies or is it actually cake? Because you say cake. But brownies are just...
Brownies are cake, aren't they?
I don't know.
It's a potato cake.
A potato cake. Who would have thought you would have been eating a potato cake in 2019? It's absolutely crazy.
I know.
But they seem to be switching that off and over, kind of anyway? Because is it both your young'uns have got issues with gluten and milk, or is it?
My eldest has a milk and soya allergy, so dairy and soya.
Right,
my
okay.
youngest has a list as long as my arm. It's it took 4 pizzas at the UK Games Expo to actually get a pizza that didn't have cheese on it and had a gluten-free base.
Really? Did you not go out to the gluten-free? Oh, was that the UK Games Expo?
Oh no! Yes. This was a wonderful certain pizza chain where I asked for a gluten-free pizza with no cheese.
And they just couldn't.
That'd be quite easy. Yeah, the first one was a wheat pizza with dairy cheese. The second one was a gluten-free pizza with dairy cheese. The third one was a gluten-free pizza with contamination of obvious cheese dripped all over it. And the final one was right. At least I hope it was.
Did you have to pay for any of them? Or did you have to pay
I got
for
that.
them?
I got that. We got that free and a discount off the bill.
Well, I would have thought you would have, wouldn't it?
But
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
but had I not spotted it, which has happened in the past, we would have a very poorly child. So
That's not great.
Eating out's interesting.
Do you find people are more aware of it nowadays? When you go to a restaurant, I mean, because there seems to be 2 types of restaurants nowadays. There seems to be a restaurant with a, let's drop some names, shall we? Places where I like to eat out that are not gluten-free and I won't get hurt. Pizza Express. I went to Pizza...
That was the one where it took 4 pizzas.
Really? Was
Yes.
that in Coventry that you went to?
No, but that is the Birmingham one. But a year ago, they were absolutely amazing there. But this year was absolutely appalling.
Because I remember going to the Birmingham NEC, not for the expo, because I'll never go to the expo. But that Kickstarter was just a lie. And no, and I remember going there for like a retail exhibition. I think it was the Internet Retailing Show, which happens, I think, probably a couple of weeks actually, either before or after the UK Games Expo. And I remember we stayed in Coventry, the hotel in Coventry, and there was a Pizza Express right there, and they had like gluten-free beer, and they basically said that they didn't actually have any flour on the premises at all, that all the bases were pre-made and prefabricated, but all of the flour that they used in the kitchen was like rice flour or potato flour, and it was absolutely amazing. So that was pretty good.
Oh, wow.
Frankie and Benny's, surprisingly enough, they're Johnny on the spot as well. Their food is really, really expensive, but I've never ever had a situation where I've said, okay, they've said, here's the gluten-free menu, and they've just made it, they've just produced it, and the stuff's been fantastic, and I've never had a reaction. Unfortunately, you go to a lot of other places, and they come out... Have you had this where they come out with a binder with a little kind of checkbox stuff? And you're kind of
and you have to go through it, and you find out that the stuff in the binder is not actually what's on the menu currently.
Yeah, because they don't, and it's not... It's because it's a head office thing. Because they don't get it printed out kind of often enough, and then you end up going down, and it's like, and it's not just that, it's like you just know that the kitchen is just not aware of the situation, and it ends up becoming like a horrific kind of risk kind of thing.
Oh, but this way, when we went to Essen last year, on the way we stopped in Belgium. We got there late. We'd exhausted all of our supplies in our bag for food, and we went out hunting, and we had 4 places refuse to serve us.
Really? Just out and out refuse?
Yeah, we went. Yeah, they wouldn't even just like give my youngest some bread or some chips or something. They actually said, "No, sorry, we can't serve you." And I had then she was like, just 3.5.
Wow.
Sort of saying, I'm really tired and I'm hungry, and we just couldn't find anywhere. The supermarket was closed, and we eventually found somewhere that would give us some ham and some bread.
That's amazing.
Which fixed my eldest, and my husband could obviously eat anything. Mm-hmm. But me and my youngest, we'd sort of just snacked on apples and what was ever left in the bag and the ham.
Does it put you out?
No.
Does it put you off kind of going out? I mean, obviously, the thing is, I prefer to cook at home, and I've kind of explored with various kind of cuisine kind of cooking at home, because at least I know that the stuff that I'm buying. Do you do a lot of cooking from scratch then, or do you not? We
have to really, because it's not finding something which hasn't got anything in there is just near impossible. So do most things cook from scratch, or there's the odd thing that we can sort of cheat with, but generally we just make it. So I found that hummus is a great cheese replacer onto pizza.
Do you know what? I don't like hummus.
Have you ever tried it on pizza though? You spread the hummus on, then you put the tomato on, and then you put your normal toppings on, and it's really tasty.
I just, do you know what I mean? It's like, I used to get that a lot. It's like, I used to get like, beans are gluten-free. It's like, yeah, no, I don't like beans. But why not? They're gluten-free. It's like, yeah, I know, but that doesn't necessarily mean I've got to like them. You know, it's but it says on the tin, and they bring over the tin, and they twist it round, and they'd say where it was a high source of fibre and iron. They say, look, gluten-free, it's actually written on the tin. Yeah, okay, nice, brilliant. I still don't like beans. Labelling's still rubbish. And it's not. Do you know what I find? It's always the smaller companies that seem to be better at the labelling than the bigger companies. Your big international companies, they can
afford to be sort of take a lawsuit, and the smaller ones can't.
It's just a pain, isn't it? Just really, really drives me up the wall. Especially if you're just normal kind of food shopping and you do spend stuff kind of looking at the labels, and you see something, you go, well, that couldn't possibly. And it, especially the crisps are the worst ones. May contain.
Well, everything's may contain technically. Absolutely everything.
I know.
Unless it's a free from.
I know.
Yeah, they do, because there's no legal requirement to put may contain on.
It's just ridiculous. It's
but I have actually found milk as an ingredient in ready sorted crisps.
Have you? I suppose you've got to be so careful and just double check everything. I just want them to have a standard. It's like they don't have the risk. They either say this is this has got gluten in it, or it's not got gluten in it, or it's made in a factory where they have gluten in it, and just say that this may contain gluten stuff. I think it's to do with legislation that it's got. I think it's something like they say it's like less than so many parts per million and above so many other parts per million, which is why they can't claim it's gluten-free, but they have to say it could contain. It's just nonsense. I don't kind of like it.
Different companies have different ways of saying it. Most people say may contain, but I think M&S says not suitable for X allergy sufferer, and that is their way of saying may contain.
Yes.
Which is really confusing. The first time I saw it, I was like, I looked through the ingredients and say, I can't see any milk in here.
No.
And just go through it. But this has turned into a completely sort of allergy and food podcast, hasn't it? If you start something new.
Well, this is just, we will talk about what we're here to talk about, but, this is an important...
No, this is far more interesting.
It's an important...
Raise awareness.
It's an important thing when, I think, one of the things when I went to AirCon, and one of the things I was really, really surprised at AirCon was that, because I remember, I was speaking to, who was I speaking to? I think I was speaking to Dan, and I was speaking to Ross, Dan Hughes, and I was speaking to Ross Connell from More Games Please, and we were just going to get some lunch, and I was like, oh, where did you get your lunch from? And it's like, oh, we just went to the Vans out the back, and I was just like, my heart literally sank, because I went, okay, so I guess I'm on kind of fruit and crisps, or I'm going to have to try and find a place, a supermarket or something. But I went out there, and the pizza place, the burger van, and the pancake van all had signs up saying they do gluten-free, and then it was magnificent because they actually said...
I know, it was amazing.
I couldn't believe it, especially the hats off to all three of them. I didn't have a burger, but I had a pizza. And the guy and the girl actually said, like, okay, this is what we're going to do with your pizza. Here it is. It's going in a separate tray. Here's the base. The base is kept completely different. There's no flour here. We're going to put it in its own tray. It's going to go on the top. it's not going to be touched with anything else. These trays we use are only for the gluten-free pizzas and nothing else. And it was just like, this is amazing. Your attention to detail is fantastic. I just want to stay here for the next couple of days and get fat eating pizza. It was just really, really good. And you know what? It helped. For me, it helped raise the experience of aircon from an already high kind of 8.5 up to 9.5. Because you know what it's like. I mean, you guys were kind of like, you were in the kind of the playtesting zone. So there's nothing worse than you're putting like a 5-hour shift in the morning, deciding you're going to get something to eat, and then realising that you're going to be snacking on like sweets, which is the worst thing, or potentially like the worst sandwich in the world kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, aircon, as I said, the vans were amazing. Actually, I probably should say a real massive thank you to the waffle and the pancake one, because they actually went out and bought Oatly milk so that the following day my daughters could have pancakes and waffles because they were using soya milk. I mean, how's that for service?
That's amazing.
They asked my husband, well, they asked Stu basically, what milk can they have? And I told them about the Oatly, and they went out, they bought it, made sure everything was clean and sorted, and then we could have basically waffles and pancakes all day Sunday. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
On the UK Games Expo, we were eating crisps because even the chips had cross-contamination on them. I was picking up the burgers with the teas and the chips with the same tongs. It was appalling. So basically, me and the two kids couldn't really eat much during the day, so it was whatever we had in the bag that we brought with us for the whole weekend. But obviously you can't bring fresh stuff for 3 days.
No, it just makes it kind of like...
but yeah, aircon was absolutely amazing. I want to go back just for the waffles.
I just want to go back, and I tell you what, if I get there, right, and there's not the waffle van, the pizza van and the burger van, I'm going to be storming up to Mark Cook, getting my stepladder out, climbing up my stepladder.
I'll hold the stepladder for you.
Thank you. Climbing up the stepladder, seeing him face to face and saying, I don't care about your fabulous bring and buy sale. I don't care you've got Paul Grogan over there demonstrating. I don't care you've got Rodney Smith and you've managed to get Tom Vassell as well. The vans are not there, Mark. What are you doing, man? What's going on? Yeah. The whole thing's ruined.
Where's my waffle?
What am I going to do? I'd demand him, I'd frog march him out. I'd obviously maybe ask Dan Hughes to help, because Dan's quite a tall fella, and maybe ask him to kind of help. We've still not done an intro, but we don't need to do an intro because we're just having a general chat, which is...
We've got to do the intro a little bit. Do you know what, when your son comes on?
Yeah.
My youngest just stops, whatever she's doing. Even if she's crying, she just stops.
Yeah.
She listens, and then sort of about 10 seconds after he stops, she starts doing whatever she's doing again. She just sits, she loves it. It's so cute. So the other day, I was listening to, I can't remember which one it was, whatever one of them was, and she was crying her eyes out. And so I just kept playing that bit over and over again because it stopped her crying.
Which one was that? Was that Emily or...
Sammy, youngest, so she's 19 months. Yeah, she wanted to. I don't know what she wanted.
I'll get Jake to record a hello for Sammy. I think
that would be amazing for her. She it's just so cute the way she stops and listens to it every single time.
I'll get him to kind of do it. I'll get that sorted out. Let's talk about... Well, let's first of all catch up on Assembly, because Assembly is out and about. First Kickstarter that you ran. It's out there. It's selling. It's out in retail. It's been greatly received. There's a lot of people love it for both the kind of the 2-player and the kind of the solo aspect for it. In terms of you being able to look back on the kind of the campaign and how things are with Assembly now, you must be pretty pleased. I mean, you must be sitting there with a little smile on your face, with an air of satisfaction to you.
Yeah, it was fantastic how well it's gone, how much it's been loved and enjoyed, but it makes the second one more terrifying. Because if people like this one, then they're expecting a lot for the next one. But it's been amazing sort of watching reviews, and maybe I just haven't watched them all, but every single one we've seen has been positive and really positive, and it's amazing. Something I've created is sent out there, which is terrifying in itself, and then everyone loves it. It's a really nice, warm, fuzzy feeling, but it does make the current Kickstarter much more daunting, because have we got it right? Is it as good? How can I beat something that people already love? How can you make one as good as your first one? Which you're always meant to do better, but how can you make something as better than something that people already like?
Are you? I don't know. I think I want I don't know. Sometimes I want a little bit of consistency. I'm a little bit of a consistency person. And I see a lot of diversification within the kind of the Kickstarter industry, but I think that's more and off kind of around people kind of doing it for commercial reasons sometimes, as opposed to creative reasons based on how they're wanting to keep themselves going, which is fine and works kind of very, very well. What I see with Assembly, and especially what I see with Sensor Ghosts, is there's a puzzle element to this, and it's a bit of a thinker's game, and it's easy enough for you to pick up and kind of grasp the basics of both games, but there can be an awful lot of brain burning in it, depending on how you kind of want to play it. And is that the kind of the portfolio that Wren Games is kind of going to aim for? Is that what you and yourself and Stu have sat down and discussed and said, right, we want to go in a direction? Or is your next game going to be a happy-go-lucky, making a gluten-free potato waffle kind of game, kind of thing?
I think we like I guess I'm not sure if it's a niche or not, but we like the niche that we've dug out for ourselves. So originally the first game I designed was much bigger, much grander ambitions, and I just realised that as much as I loved it, and maybe one day I will go back to it, it wasn't right for that time in our life. Mm-hmm. It was too long. I mean, it took like an hour for a full game. So if you think about playtesting, 2 young children, amount of time you have in the day, 20 minutes is sort of a decent time in which I can get 2 playtests in of Assembly or Sensor Ghosts in that time. And it's something that I think our gaming has moved much more towards since having children, and you appreciate those smaller games which have a bit of depth to them, but don't take too long, and they can be a bit of brain burner, but you don't have to at the same time. It's not like really, really hard thinking. Mm. It's just sort of puzzling something out. So it's thinking, but not like trying to do the, 8 times multiplication table in your head or something. Yeah. And it works for our life. And so it's more about designing that fits in with us and what we enjoy. And I don't think there's enough games like that. I mean, there's lots out there are, as you say, just like happy-go-lucky ones, or competitive perhaps, but less on the co-op or solo on puzzle side. And as I said, it just works. And I think we're just going to try and aim to do more like that, because it works with our lifestyle, and that's actually how everything's done. It's about fitting in around other things. And enjoying it while we do it, because it is still very much a hobby for us. And so, our hobbies have to fit around life, like work and children. And a 10-minute, 20-minute game fits in a lot better. And you can just play test it so much more rigorously as well. So, I'd say that's our aim. Maybe some of the others will come back, and I've got some other sort of silly little ideas, but my heart isn't really into it as much. So those are the sort of ones that if someone else is interested in working with me, then that would be great, but not something I'll probably bring to life on my own or on our own.
Because, and I was going to say, now don't take this the wrong way, but I'm going to say, because you are kind of treating this more as this is a hobby and a passion project for us, do you think you're more willing to take the risk in terms of innovation and maybe not go for the kind of the cookie cutter kind of project? And obviously,
no, that's just my personality. That's nothing to do with anything else.
You just
I just don't like following the mold. I like doing what I think is right at the for me and for us at the time, and it's not. I like doing things a bit differently. That's just who I am. And so, no, it's not sort of about taking risks. It's just about being true to myself and true to what we believe and what we enjoy, rather than trying to get a nice 3D artwork on a box because that's what every other game has, and doing something more line art based because it worked. And why can't we have that? Why do we have to conform to everyone else? It's just, didn't even actually think about it as a risk. It was just what worked for us. Again, it's just what worked for us and what we enjoyed doing, what we felt was right for the game and for what we could deliver without, I don't know, going bankrupt or spending lots of money on something that looked just like another game.
And the visuals are striking.
Yeah,
I mean, you can tell straight away that Sensor Ghosts is from the same portfolio. You know, if it's just like if you lined up a whole pile of games and said, right, here's Assembly, what's Wren Games' next one? And you could, you know, people would point out straight away and go, there's definitely that one there, because the art style is kind of so similar. I mean, Assembly was essentially about fixing systems in almost like a 2001 scenario where you were basically trying to fix the various systems in a ship so you could escape. Sensor Ghosts seems to be kind of like the natural progression. It's almost like, well, you know, it's almost like what happens the kind of the 5 minutes immediately after, I guess, the first Alien film. When Ripley manages to kind of escape, it's almost kind of like that. Well, what immediately happens? Because from what I can see in Sensor Ghost to me is, right, okay, you have managed to escape. You've now got to make your way back to kind of Earth, which is probably doing the actual kind of story and plot a bit of a disservice. But again, you've not gone into keeping it kind of simple and straightforward. There's not like 4,500 words of lore behind Assembly, and it's the same with kind of Sensor Ghost. It basically is, you know, it's a very, very simple situation. You are here, you need to get there. There's issues, you know, there's been issues, you need to kind of get it sorted out. And again, was that just because you were concentrating on the gameplay side of things, that maybe adding in a big backstory behind it was just going to be superfluous and not actually add anything to the game?
The backstory in there was it's a relatively simple game, and so having too much backstory for a small rulebook will probably feel a bit excessive for most, but having enough to explain the mechanics, and that's where the aim is. It should be every mechanic in the game should be justified within an element of the story. And that's how we kind of define the level, is that if there's something happening and there's something that you do, there's an explanation so you understand why you're doing it, with the aim of that making it easier to remember, but not having too much, but not having too little. So we're not going for this like the 5-line intro, but you've got each section has a little bit extra just to try and explain a bit more of the story of what's going on. So you know why you're flipping cards, why you're trying to go from A to B, why this kills you, because that's how you're going to learn the game, it's how you're going to remember it. But yeah, so that was kind of the aim behind it, was just to have enough. But most people can fill in the blanks between that, and it's sort of reading previews and reviews and stuff, and how they read the story during the rules, play the game several times, and then like almost rewrite it. But it's always rewritten slightly differently, and that's really interesting because what it's doing is it's sparking imagination. You need to leave enough in there, I think, for imagination as well, so that they can make the story and the journey their own. But it gives that understanding and reason for doing what they're doing. why the game works the way it works. And it was really interesting design boundaries, actually. So we started this time with the story and designed the mechanics around that. Whereas an assembly, we kind of had mechanics, then designed the story, and then developed it within the storyline.
All right, okay. Are you planning more kind of expansions to the range? Because the thing about Sensor Ghosts is you've obviously got Sensor Ghosts the game, but alongside it, you've also got assembly as well. You know, you've got a little kind of almost like miniature expansion to assembly, which is the kind of the resequence and kind of override situation. So is this the beginning of you kind of releasing continual expansions to the games that you've already got?
At the moment, I think assembly feels complete. I don't know. We might change our mind on that, but I think Sensor Ghosts could have some more. So we've got a mini expansion that needs a bit more playtesting for Sensor Ghosts already, and some other ideas to expand it further. But I felt the core game was kind of solid as it was, that it didn't need that immediately. And actually, people generally found that adding them in early was actually too much. They're definitely much more an expansion material than they are base game material. I don't know, in terms of assembly, maybe, but it's a very simple concept, and although resequence and override don't transform the game, they do add two very different ways to play it, in terms of how you have to win, and trying to turn win strategies so that actually if you do exactly what you always do in the base game, you'll probably end up killing yourself before you actually run out of time. And so it's a conscious effort to try and just mix things up. But yeah, I think I quite like the idea of having a new game plus an expansion for the previous one at the same time, because you've got, if someone wants just to build on what they've currently got, then they can do that, and if they want to go for something new, they can do that, or they can do both. And it's quite a nice mix, I think. I was really worried about having a confusing message though, but we think we pulled it off. But I guess we'll have to have people tell us or not afterwards whether the campaign was confusing or not doing it this way. But to be perfectly honest, we just couldn't face running 2 Kickstarters in 1 year. One's more than enough.
Well, I think, at the moment, the people have voted with their wallets and are currently saying yes, we kind of like this. But on the other side of it, you've been getting some serious kind of plaudits. You've got the Dice Tower seal of approval. It says you've got for assembly.
I know, we were absolutely shocked. We've sent that off, and it's like, yeah, it'll take 3 months. And then was on a Discord channel, and it's like on New Year's Eve, and there's messages pinging up, Janice, have you seen this? And it's like, what? No, they're not going to do that till March, which is perfect, because that's in the run up to our next Kickstarter. I only sent it to them 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And then this it came up, and it's we just sat there in awe. It was like, wow, he actually likes it, and I've done it so quickly. But yeah, we got to sort of had a quick chat with Z at UK Games Expo, and it was pretty amazing. He's said that he still plays assembly occasionally, which is wow, he still plays it. But again, it's not just gone in the basement.
But again, do you think that's down to the accessibility of the game? That it is a game that, in size wise, the box is really, really small. Compared to kind of other boxes I've seen where you can open up the box and the components could have probably fit in a much smaller box. The assembly components are they're substantial, but you've not taken up a massive size of box to put them in there. And again, you don't really need a huge table in order to play it. You could pretty much set it down if you wanted to on a coffee table in front of you and get a quick game. You could set it down in one of those... if you're sitting on the train and you had a table in front of you, you could kind of put it on there and get it kind of played as well. So I can imagine it's one of those things, if you've got 20 minutes to fill and you've got nothing much else kind of doing, you could probably have that in your bag, take it out and have a kind of game of it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's really quick, and it was a conscious choice to go for a small box, but it's one that we sort of, Stu and I, constantly debate, because there's sort of going for a small box and the ideal of a small box and having something that's very portable and to carry around, but then there's the buyer's impression of a small box. It's a small box, it's a cheap game. And then, as you say, the components inside are not insignificant. We just don't use a box full of air. Mm-hmm. And so we've had returns because it's it's not worth the money because the box is too small, pretty much on Amazon when you look at the feedback. And from some blind testing, feedback was it's overpriced because it's just a couple of tokens and a card. But if it was in a box that was 3 times that size, would we still got those comments? I suspect probably wouldn't have. And so it's
if you were
really
a Century Spice Road type box or something like that. Then...
Yeah. So if you're talking earlier about risks, that's probably the biggest risk we took. Mm-hmm. We went for a small box, and that means the perceived value is significantly lower, and particularly on sort of small print runs and pricing, and you don't get the volume discounts. It means that unfortunately the price is a little bit higher than other games in a box that size, which is it's do you just go for a bigger box? But that just feels wrong at the same time. I don't want a bigger box personally. I want a small box I can put in. Why do I want a box that is 4 times too big? But that's something that is just a bit of a gut wrench, because you've got to both do your morals and your ideals, but also it's going to be on a shelf in a shop. And if it's a tiny box with a technically hefty price tag on, sort of most sort of retailers have it in sort of somewhere between the 18 and £23 kind of bracket. People look it up and they base it on that size, not on what's in there, and that's a real shame. And it's a real psychology that is hard. Online it's easier because people can't actually see the physical size of the box, and it takes a lot of effort to return it, and hopefully they'll play it before they return it. But it's a tough one, that one. And I don't really want to go too big a box, but at the same time, having a tiny box, I think, has done us a disservice as well.
But I think, but then on the other side of it, there's quite a lot of folk that have done kind of videos on it, written little pieces on it and stuff like that as well. And again, because it's well, how daunting could this game be to get it to the table? Which I guess is a kind of another way to kind of look at it. In terms of sensor ghosts, how close were you between kind of in the design side of things, between putting together assembly and having sensor ghosts there? Because I remember you putting kind of updates on the Kickstarter project as pretty quickly when you were doing assembly to already, and even on your page and stuff like that, to start talking about sensor ghosts kind of fairly quickly. Was that what it was like? You were kind of put assembly as much to bed as possible after the Kickstarter campaign, but then was right, sensor ghosts is the next thing, let's go on with it.
So I do like to finish something before I start something new, and it was actually some of the comments on the Kickstarter campaign that I guess really made Sensor Ghosts exist. There was a few people saying about, was there going to be a sequel? And we thought about it and thought, yeah, why not? And so I did my normal sort of going to sleep trying to think something, then chatted it through with Stu. We mulled around a load of ideas, got a basic concept, and that initial stage for us is normally pretty quick. And then sort of slowly developed it. But it's that refining bit that takes the time. And we had all sorts of stuff that just went wrong with assembly in terms of after the Kickstarter to delivery, which meant that I spend as much time since the Ghost as I probably would have liked. But yeah, it was as a result of that, and it just got us thinking. And the initial concepts and ideas are relatively easy to come by. It's that fine tuning that really, really takes the time. But no, it wasn't planned. It was just literally some backers said something. We went away and thought, and the idea popped up and suddenly happened.
What was the issue she had with the Kickstarter for Assembly? Was it like manufacturing stuff or? No,
actually, the manufacturer was absolutely fine. So I was in a car accident 2 weeks after the campaign, which knocked me out for about a month.
Oh my goodness, yeah, I remember.
I couldn't sit at a computer for about a month, which delayed me getting files ready.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a massive stock loss, so 2 pallets of our stock went missing. We had several hundred games got left in Germany because they forgot to read the full sentence. So it was like the full order plus any overs. So you never get the exact amount that you order. You always get generally slightly more.
Yeah.
And they didn't read that and the overs. They just read the number. And so we had a load of games left over in Germany, which we had to try and get back. Yeah. And then yeah. So which then put us down on Kickstarter copies because a load of them had been left over there, so we didn't have enough. So we had to make Kickstarter copies with all the spare stuff that we had. And
wow.
Yeah, it was an interesting time. And then could we actually even fulfill this because we had a load of games just go missing, which was very frustrating.
That must have been very frustrating indeed. Was it a computer glitch that caused that?
No, they actually no. We still have several hundred games missing.
You're joking me, really?
No, they most of them are found, but we still have a few hundred games that are missing.
Wow, that's. I don't know.
Luckily we overbought, so
yeah,
it was we knew we could do it in some way, and we'd also taken a lot back here so we could sort of remake new Kickstarter editions and that sort of thing, and spent a weekend getting all the stuff barcoded up and packaged up ready to be sent out again. But it was a bit of a nightmare to say the least.
I'm so glad I brought it up. Absolutely terrible now. It's why don't you just give me a paper cut and put some lemon juice on it?
Well, it's something that I plan to write about at some point, sort of naming no names, but just on the what can actually go wrong. So you can plan absolutely everything perfectly, and sort of personal life and random events will still try and scupper you. Having said that, we got pretty much, I'd say, most of our backers' copies, 2/3, if not more of them, out by the date we agreed, with many of them early. It was only sort of I think it's something like 50 or 60 people out of 800 got half of their reward late. Not all of it, only half of it.
Oh, right, okay. Well, that's
so half of it got shipped and the other half of it was in the lost, which was really frustrating. But yeah, so we've still got most, despite all of that, we've got most of it out.
So I take it that has changed your plans for kind of how you're doing, kind of what you're doing with what you're doing next then. I take it with your fulfillment and things like that. Is there anything you can do with that? Can you prepare for that? Are you just, I guess you just have to see.
I don't know if anyone can tell me how to prepare for the loss of 2 pallets of stock. I would love to know. My only preparation was that I had already taken a load of the games home, sort of actually in the back of my car and stuff, which meant I had some spare. Mm-hmm. But it didn't mean I couldn't do then in the marketing, because we got down to Aircon. We had after that, I think, 6 packs of glitches left to our name because all the rest were missing, and that was it. And it's we pushed it, then we basically can't sell necessarily what we have. And so it was a real dilemma on what to do there. Mm-hmm. So that was quite tough. And then Amazon were right, load of I could say various words as well there, couldn't I? They just randomly suspend your account over the Christmas period with no reason, no notice, and then just magically unlock it 10 days later after the Christmas period has ended.
I'm very, very aware of your Amazon situation.
Well, yeah, that was also fun. If someone could tell me how to avoid that as well, would be absolutely fantastic. But again, no reason given. No notice given. Every time you ring up, they say, check your emails. You check your emails. I haven't got an email from you. Sorry, it's under investigation. I can't talk to you about it. How can I stop you doing this in the future? I don't know.
One day I'm going to do a podcast about Amazon. I need to be careful about doing a podcast about Amazon and eBay. Not because I'm scared of what Amazon and eBay will do, because, I know them well enough to know they're not organised to do stuff about it. But I think it's important to have a logistical discussion in relations to board games and Amazon. I have to be careful about it because it is my job, and I have to watch kind of conflicts of interest and stuff like that as well. I cannot, I guess, kind of look into the future and put my radar out there and make sure that I don't crash into any unfortunate kind of asteroids. Just kind of like sensor ghosts, really.
Yeah, definitely avoid them. Wherever you can, particularly the big ones.
I am going to give you a description of sensor ghosts because I really want people to check it out, just the whole premise behind it. So I'm going to explain, and you can interrupt. You can tell me if I'm talking nonsense. But sensor ghosts is basically the follows on. As I said before, directly after the events in assembly, you have escaped the malfunctioning computer. Unfortunately, it has managed to spread some of its maliciousness into your escape pod or escape ship's navigation computer, and you're basically trying to navigate an asteroid field to try and get yourself back to Earth. And before you, there are essentially rows after rows of cards which contain kind of asteroids or free space, but unfortunately, because of this lovely computer, you might know or not know what is actually ahead of you. You've got the ability to move your ship, decide how you're going to move it. You've also got the ability to also scan ahead, and the cards themselves that you lay out, they actually have what they are actually underneath. When you flip them over, it tells you could have a picture of maybe a meteorite, and what could be in there. It could be an obstruction, which means you die. It could be a picture of free space, which you turn over, and it could still be free space, which means you can pass through. But interestingly enough, at the end of when you're playing your turn, the entire row above you shifts a card to the left, which means that as you're navigating through the field, you need to be constantly conscious of how you're going to navigate your way through, with the potential destruction happening to your ship at any possible time. Is that kind of the correct thing, or have I got this completely wrong?
No, that's perfect, I think. So yeah, it's the movement is all predictable, so that you can plan for it, or you can just gamble and probably die, which is what Stu does when he play tests. He either completely beats it with like half a deck left, or he dies miserably because he just takes risks the whole time. It's basically it's designed for planning, and if you take risks, you'll win about 50-50, but you'll either crash and burn or win with a huge victory, which is quite amusing to watch that sort of style of gameplay. But yeah, for your standard person that does at least a little bit of planning and doesn't just take risks every turn, you'll probably still be about a 50-50 win, actually. But it's literally, I describe it as a moving maze puzzle, where it's what's on the bottom of the cards that matters, not the top. I was using backs and fronts, and that confused people because they technically have a back and a front, but as soon as you have them out in a grid, they no longer have a back and a front. It's what's the bottom of the top that matters.
Yeah. It's like, is it that Harrison Ford film? Is it What Lies Beneath? I don't know where I got that from. Anyway, but again, it's designed to be easy to set up, easy to play, easy to understand the fundamentals and the basics, but also provide your ability to, if you've got not much to do, you can set it up on a table, because again, it does take more space, I would say, than assembly, but it's still a fairly compact game. The cards themselves are square. They're probably about 2 inches by 2 inches roughly. They're
about the 70 mil-ish by 70 mil.
Right,
so
okay.
Whatever that is in inches, I have no idea.
Yeah, slightly okay. Yeah, probably about just over 2 inches, yeah, something like that. Yeah, I'm old money, So
Yeah.
I can't help it. I look at that. Old money.
Yeah.
You get your counters as normal. You get a nice little you get your normal ship. You get your little escape pod as well.
Yeah.
If you're playing single player, you've not only got to get your ship through, but you've also got to get your escape pod.
Yeah, that's not just for single player. That's for all player modes. It's actually mine and Stu's preferred mode. We felt the base game was maybe a little bit missing, and that we introduced that to make it feel more complete for when we were playing.
Mm-hmm.
But when playtesting and teaching others, people found it just too much to include that in at the beginning, because you're thinking about so many things already. Mm-hmm. So I guess it kind of comes to the point that we'd playtested it so much that we got to the point of needing something extra and then hadn't allowed for that, which is why it's a variant rather than now in the base rules. Because if you pick it up straight away and you're good at it and sort of you understand what's going on, then include it pretty early on. But otherwise, it's like advised not to play with it straight away, because you'll probably forget about it and your poor little escape pod will crash and burn, and you will ultimately or technically lose unless you suddenly pretend you weren't playing with the escape pod.
Because of the community that you built up through assembly, were you able to reach out to more people to get them to kind of play test Sensor Ghosts?
Yes and no. We got a lot newer and different playtesters.
No.
But at the same time, I think the card count was a little higher, so we perhaps had a little less take up in terms of the playtesting as well. So we got some decent feedback and results. But I think it was a bit of a mix. I think with assembly, because we did it through originally Board Game Geek and one of the contests, we got a fairly decent amount of playtesting as a result of that. Mm-hmm. Whereas Sensor Ghost, we went fully on our own, which means that you've got to do it purely through willing volunteers, because I like print and plays, which is I think a little bit harder, particularly and sort of with modern life, cutting up and printing out cards is I think the least favourite part of game design for me. Anyone that does it regularly, I have most respect for.
Yeah, I know people that just say, just send me the print and play files, and I'm just like, you're automatically my hero for doing that. Also on the other side of it, I think as I was, I said this the other week that please, if you're sending out preview copies, please put your rulebook on just blank, the basic of the basic, because it makes it so much easier to print as well. Just for kind of reading and things like that. Just because I like rulebooks. I like rulebooks in certain facts, but if I'm just wanted to learn how to play your game, then having a big, huge, shiny thing with multiple colours is a bit of a bugger to print, to be honest, especially if you've only got a monochromatic printer, so you end up not being able to see half the stuff. But there you go. That's just something to the side. In terms of the price point for Sensor Ghosts, will you try to kind of keep it round about the similar price, the similar price tag as assembly?
Yeah, that's the aim. We sort of, I think, somewhere between the £20 and £30 is probably the sweet spot, that you're not going for too much, but also it's kind of worth doing, if that makes sense, that you actually get enough return that you can then go to things like UK Games Expo. You can pay for some of the marketing for the next Kickstarter and I guess pay for the extra print runs and stuff. So yeah, it seems like the right sort of price. It's the sort of price that it's not going to be people also taking a huge risk on you, because we're still a young company. We're new in the game design world, so it's something that if someone buys it, they don't feel like they're taking a big risk on this unknown. So I think there's lots of games should be on the lower end, because you don't know, money isn't hugely out there. You don't have huge amounts of budgets for it, and there's a huge amount of competition for the £40-50 games, and if someone's spending £40-50, they're going to go for something they know. They're not going to go for some unknown publisher. Well, at least that's my thought anyway. So yeah, we feel that's the right sort of price point for us. It works. And it's the right sort of budget for presents and stuff as well, or just as a quick purchase at an expo or on Kickstarter.
Because currently, to get in the door, because we've talked price, but we haven't actually talked price. Basically, if you're wanting the expansion for assembly, is £14. If you want to have Sensor Ghosts, it's £24. If you want to do a bit of both and have your, as you call it, the Pilot and Survivor, it's £37. And then you've also got, was it £39 pledge?
That's basically, that's just assembly stuff. So if you didn't want to go for anything new, you just wanted to go for assembly glitches and the resequence and override, you can just go the assembly route if you want to.
All right, cool. Good.
So we tried to price it all relatively competitively so that when you're going into the £30, you're getting two things. Mm-hmm. But I think the thing I'm most excited about, the Robo Meeples in override.
Because you just had discs before, now you've got meeples.
Yeah, so they have meeples, and we could just go for basic ones, but I really wanted to go for printed Robo Meeples. We looked around and we couldn't find any decent Robo Meeples out there, so we've got to make some. So we might do some crafts, make some magnets and stuff with them with my eldest Emily, and maybe you'll see her wares at the next UK Games Expo of Robo Meeple magnets that she's made.
That'll be absolutely.
That's my plan, anyway.
That'll be absolutely fantastic. There's about 2 weeks to go as we're talking. I might just not edit. I'm definitely not editing out the beginning bit, because I haven't done an intro. So you're gonna have you're gonna have the gluten-free chat at the beginning, and then we're going to be talking about Sensor Ghosts at the end. So we're kind of being. It's kind of like
the end. You realise.
Get you some food, and then show you a good time. Basically.
Raise awareness about intolerances and allergies, and then we talk some board gaming.
It's an important subject, and it needs to be something that is discussed and kind of out there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pretty much. If people want to keep an eye on you and Stu on the internet webs, where do you exist on the internet webs?
So I guess I'm most active on Twitter at Dravin, DRAVVIN, but you also find us at Wren Games, like the bird, WREN, games, across Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. So find us on all of them. Or obviously there's wrengames.co.uk, which is a website that one day I will finish. I don't have my fingers crossed there. I promise. It's better than it used to be.
This is on tape. That's not an excuse.
One day
Just be aware this has been recorded. So we can hold you that when we're doing your third Kickstarter campaign. Which
you do realise how I finished my PhD thesis?
What's that?
Do you know what I did?
No.
I deleted sections.
Really?
That was how I finished it. Yeah, I decided rather than finishing those sections, I just deleted them.
Wow. You realise you're only allowed on the show next time if you bring Stu?
I will try. Maybe I could trick him. I could tell him that we're bringing his parents or something.
I'm just putting that out there. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, if you are Stewless and have been affected with lack of stew in your life, then you too can get support by going to Google, searching for we'renotstew.com. No, if you go to we'renotwizards.com, and there is our specialist kind of non-stew support line. Don't be alone if you have no stew in your life who doesn't want to come on your podcast. You can also find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can go to our website, which is we'renotwizards.com. You can go to our blog, which is .blogspot.com with We're Not Wizards in front. If you want to email us in general, you can email us at magic@we'renotwizards.com. If you want to email us specifically about the podcast, because it's been so... It's quite... Do you know what? I wholeheartedly apologise to everybody who's emailed me, and I kind of say, I'll get back to you, and I kind of email them a week later and say, oh, sorry, because I get so much email now that I've now got podcast@wearenotwizards.com, so you can email us directly through there. If you'd like to be on the show, or if you have a question or anything like that, just email us, podcast@wearenotwizards.com. If you want to continue to help us grow, you can do a couple of things. We've got Patreon. You can go to Patreon and give us money. It's fantastic. Money helps. Let's not lie about
Biscuits.
it. Yeah, gluten-free biscuits. Yummy. The other thing that you can do as well is you can go to, you can tell somebody else about us, which is always fantastic. The next thing you can do is you can go to the Apple Podcasts for as long as they exist. Drop us a subscription, drop us a rating, drop us a review, drop us a stew. And as we said, he's going to be reeling at this because I have met him.
He does exist.
I'm just doing this through embarrassment now. But as I say, if you like what you've listened to, don't give us 10 stews, because that makes us big-headed. But don't give us 1 stew. Well, I'd probably settle for 1 stew. But give us 5.
Yeah, 1 stew's plenty.
1 stew's
Perfect
plenty.
number.
Give us 5.
Perfect number.
Because it's in the middle. And it's average. But the person who's not been average tonight is Stu. And the person who has been average tonight is Janice.
I think that's the first time you said my name so far, isn't it? In the past hour.
I know, it's fantastic. And
it's a completely back to front podcast.
It is. So joining us to talk about... this is the backwards show. So joining us to talk about the game Sense of Ghost, we've got Janice Turner from Wren Games, and then we're going to have a little discussion about food intolerances and the ability of getting food at Expo.
And restaurants being able to follow simple instructions.
And that is very, very important. I guess there's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember there were many things, but we're not wizards.
Not yet. Oops. I spotted it.
You have absolutely just ruined
Sorry.
everything.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it is a goodbye. It's goodbye. She turned.
Do I have to say goodbye?
She
Okay.
turned
Bye.
at the last minute. She was a turner.
I'm sorry, I have completely put you off. Your little outro's now completely ruined. Should we try again?
No.
No.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, make something awful.
Beware of wizards.
Beware of wizards. Beware of people that you trust turning around at the last minute saying that they might be wizards. But until the next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.
I could do a robot voice at the end, couldn't I?
Yeah, we could. Could do all sorts of things.
You could, but we won't, because it just ruined it completely.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What are you looking at, Dave? Why are you doing that, Dave? Anyway. Hello and welcome to the show. And that'll do.
That'll do. Welcome to the show, and I present here Richard from We're Not Wizards, who we're interviewing this evening.
Ah, dear. And cut.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.